it's forget about me for a minute.
Yeah.
Understand the customer through the unbiased lens. Let's see them the way they see themselves now. With that context, now let's think about what we do and where we're relevant.
Welcome to Innovation Talks. Join us weekly as we discuss with distinguished industry guests how to refine and improve corporate innovation and new product development as businesses aim for long-term success. Hosted by Paul Heller, Sopheon CTO.
If you're looking for additional information around new product development or corporate innovation, sign up for Sopheon's newsletter where we share news and industry best practices monthly. The fastest way to do this is to go to Sopheon.com, that's Sopheon.com, and click the sign up and stay informed box. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Glad you could join us again. I have another guest this week. In the past, we've talked about product management, and there's a lot of interest in that. So I'm joined today by John Mansour. John is the founder and managing partner of a company called Proficience, and they are a training and consulting firm that specializes in B2B product management, product marketing, and product demos, working with lots of companies to help them improve all of those. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Nice to be here.
Yeah, glad you could join us. Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from Greenville, South Carolina.
Greenville, South Carolina. And how's the summer been there?
Summer has been great, typical South Carolina summer, so rather warm, but Greenville's a great place, always a lot going on here, so there's no time to be bored.
That sounds great. Well, tell us a little bit about your company Proficience and what you do. I mean, I gave a short blurb of it, but go a little bit more on that.
We are primarily a training company, and as you mentioned, we focus on product management, product marketing, and product demos, and so essentially, we train B2B companies primarily in the technology space on, how to deliver products that have more quantifiable value to the customer, build them, market them, sell them, and deliver them to the customer so the customer actually gets results. So that's where we specialize. I would say the one thing that probably separates us in terms of our approach is our focus primarily on customer outcomes, right? So in the industry around product management, product marketing, you'll hear go solve customer problems, which, you're going to do it. Your products have to do that at the end of the day. But think of it as a shortcut, right? So trying to find the big customer problems is like finding needles in a haystack because your customers have a lot of them. So we come at it from the opposite side and we say, well, what are the outcomes, business outcomes your customers are looking for most? And let's just figure out what's stopping them, and their biggest problems will sort of hit you between the eyes. So it's an easier way to get to the high impact things that your product marketing, sales, and customer teams should be focused on.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would disagree that product management, product marketing, and even be able to demo your product and sell your product, I think it's all probably part of innovation. I mean, how do you relate product management and innovation?
To me, the two are joined at the hip because whether I'm, managing an existing product over its life cycle or I'm looking for, new products to build, I mean, as far as a product management and an innovation team, we should be coming at it from the same jumping point, which is understanding what our customers are trying to do, why that's important to them, why it's important to them, and why they can't get there. And if we're coming at it from that standpoint, then there's a lot of different ways to end up with something that's innovative. Mm-hmm. And, I think it's, innovation comes down to two things. You're either going to meet a need customers never knew they had until there was a solution, or you've come up with a new innovative way to solve an age-old problem.
You used a phrase with me once that says innovation is a result, not a process. Tell me about that.
My perspective on innovation being a result, it is a result of understanding your customers better than everybody else out there, or it's a result of understanding your customers as well as they understand themselves, might be a better way to put it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that is one of the hardest things for product companies to do is invest the time to understand their customers as well as they understand their own products, because if we understand our customers that well, then innovation should be easy. Yeah. Right. Because again, we have either uncovered a problem or a need customers never knew they had, and we understand the outcome of addressing that need or solving that problem, or technology or there's something else out there that has given us a new way to solve an old problem that, people just have accepted it's an issue. And, again, until there's a new solution out there, no one really thinks about it.
Yeah. So a lot of companies are really focused on the process, right? And you do need a process, but the process is not enough, is the way I would say it. If you can't do it for the sake of the process, right?
Yes, and so my phrase, obviously not all inclusive, because once you understand what a need that customers have, whether it's a new way to solve an old need or solving a need they never knew they had, then once you get to that point, then there definitely has to be a process.
Yeah.
My perspective is getting to the idea to build something new is where I think, to me, that's the result versus the process, right? Because I think companies go through, they have this whole innovation process for coming up with the idea instead of understanding your customers to get the ideas, then putting a process in place to execute and get those to market and validate the model and all those sorts of things. So I think the process in a lot of cases, is starting at the wrong point.
Yeah.
Probably a better way to put it.
Right. And you can't just run a process and expect that it gets you to that deep, intimate understanding of what the consumers need or what the users need. How have you found good techniques or ways to help product managers better understand that, what you call that outcome or that result? I mean, what are you seeing there in terms of techniques?
The technique is very simple. It comes down to companies investing the time and effort to do it. And it's very simple. The more time you spend with customers, the better you get to know them, the better you get to understand them. And to me, whether your job is to innovate or to manage an existing product that's already in the market, you should know your customers as well as you know your product, or even better, in my mind, to be effective at either coming up with innovative new ideas or even managing products throughout their existing life cycle. And I think in too many companies, the innovation process starts with, hey, someone has an idea. So whatever the idea is, it goes into a hopper, then it goes through a process. And to me, it's like there are a lot of things that should never be in the hopper.
Yeah. So a good process would provide for that type of relationship of interaction with the eventual buyers of the product. A good process would do that. A lot of processes don't do that, but a good one
exactly.
would do that. Yeah. I think that could be built into the process. I think if people looked at their process and said, hey, do we have enough things in our process that make that interaction happen? And if we don't, put those in.
No, I totally agree with you. And I think it's putting more emphasis on the front end of that process that starts with not someone just having an idea, but part of that front end process has to be some very structured conversations with people you would consider to be your target customers, and maybe it's existing customers. And again, it's one of those things where it's very simple. The hard part for product companies is to what I refer to as leading the witness. Right. So in my mind, if I have an idea for something, and Paul, you're one of my would-be customers, my line of facilitating that conversation might be trying to subconsciously lead you to come to the conclusion I have, so that we both think it's a great idea. Instead of me just coming at it with an unbiased lens and say, Paul, what are the top priorities for your company for the next 2, 3, 5 years? Why are those important? How are the market dynamics shaping it? What are you trying to do? What parts of the company are you investing in? What are your customers asking you for? And just let the cards fall where they may. To me, that's the most important part of that innovation process up front. That's how you get good ideas into the hopper.
Yeah, it's so easy to go in with what I would think is a need. What was an idea is great. John, what do you think? If I gave you this, what do you think? Right? Or
that'd be great.
I've totally missed an opportunity for you to really tell me what you need. That's so true. How did you get involved in this, John? What got you on this journey?
My technology career started in pre-sales. I was a demo guy. I came from a customer. So I was working for a big healthcare organization. We bought financial human resource software and we implemented it. And I was a department head there in a very large hospital. And the software provider we bought from used to bring customers in there to do site visits, and I would regularly walk prospects through my area of responsibility, and I guess my hit rate was pretty good because they all ended up buying.
There
So
you go.
so one of the HR recruiters from that software company came and said, "Hey, how'd you like to come to work for us in a pre-sales role?" Which I did. It was a fabulous, fun job. So I went from pre-sales and worked my way back into product management. You know, having both the practitioner experience and then having the sales experience, and that was invaluable going into a product management role because I had both perspectives, right? So it's not just something that works for the customer, but you have to be able to sell it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I've heard people say when you got a new product concept, write the marketing materials, your internal material. Have you ever heard that approach? Does that work? What do you think about that?
Well, the way it works for most of it is some person group decides what's going to be built, and then once they figure out what it is, then they tell marketing, "Hey, go figure out how to market and sell this thing," right? Which is the backwards way to do it.
Mm.
In my opinion, you should write the customer success stories before you build the product, right? And the only blank is insert customer name here.
Mm-hmm.
So define the success customers are going to get with your solutions before you build them. And by developing that content, by default, you have your marketing materials.
Yeah. Okay.
Think of it this way, the only difference between business requirements and value propositions are you either do or don't have the product. Business requirements precede the product, value propositions come after the product, but the reason you built it is the same reason people will buy it. There's no difference there.
Yeah. Fascinating view on it. Have you seen that, the shift away from, let's say, waterfall to agile? Have we lost something? Has it helped? Are we getting better? Are we getting worse?
It has helped a whole lot of things, right? Because you have, shorter cycles, people are more accountable. You don't have the projects that drag on and on and on, and then, they lose steam, a year and a half into something and they get killed and all those sorts of things. So there's been a ton of good things about Agile. I would say the one thing, and it's a big one, the one thing that has sort of gotten lost in the shuffle is validating user interactions before you start speccing and building something. In fact, what most companies are doing now, they're starting to get back into it a little bit, right? So everyone is doing agile development, but more of a waterfall launch, because in enterprise B2B, especially technology, so many things work together. You can't just, unless it's something small, you can't just rifle big pieces of functionality out there independently because they touch so many things. So you'll see companies do agile sprints, 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then they'll do a release every 3 months or 6 months so that you have a significant amount of functionality that was all tested together, make sure it works, right? But in the course of doing that, I think we have lost a little bit of our bandwidth in terms of validating those working prototypes with customers before we go and build. Going back to the original Agile, if it doesn't work for the customer, we throw it away and build it again, which, okay, that's nice, but in these big enterprise applications, that's just not reality.
Yeah. I'm curious your view on this. There's the term product manager. To me, and maybe you tell me I'm wrong, which is fine, that's you have a total ownership of a product. It's what the product is, but you typically own the business aspect to it as well. Right? You have some accountability for it's going to sell, and here's who's going to buy it, and here's why they're going to buy it. And then you have what Agile calls the product owner, right? And then you have this writing the stories, right? What's your view on that? Is it the same person? Is it different people?
So, when Agile first sort of hit the scene in the product owner role, the intent of the role is right on the money, but I thought there could not be a more horrible title to give to this role because, just metaphorically speaking, product managers were always thought to be the owner of the product, right? So now it's all of a sudden this person owns the product, so I'm a product owner and I own the product. Well, what's the product manager do? So till this day, there's a ton of confusion around the two roles. So, while I don't agree with the title product owner, there's probably a better name out there for it. The role in and of itself is highly, highly valuable, right? So if you think of the product manager as the, more upstream role, 80-20 rule here, product managers own the who, what, and why in terms of markets, customers, who are our target markets, what are they trying to accomplish, why is that important, what's stopping them, what are they doing about it, how do they measure success, right? So that's the product manager role. The product owner role goes much more into the how. So there's the functional how, and then, they work with designers on the technical how. So it's how do people who are going to use these products do their job? What do they do? How do they do it at a very granular level? And then how do we spec our products to support what users do and give them the outcomes they want?
Yeah.
Right, to the benefit of their company. In other words, so the product owner is, how are we going to make people better at doing this job in a way that's beneficial to their company, right? Going back up the ladder to the strategic value there. So to me, there's a very clear delineation between those two roles, and where companies go wrong is they try to combine those into a single person.
Okay. That was going to be my next question. Is it
Yes.
one person or more?
It's a two-headed animal, and when you combine those into one, and I've been watching this for years and years and years, I will just say flat out, it is a recipe for mediocrity.
I love it. Well, you've got the experience to prove that, to back that statement up.
Well, and even though a lot of people have the skills to do the product manager and the product owner role, there's not the capacity within one individual to do both of those as well as they need to be done over the long haul. You might be able to get away with it for a release or two, but over the long haul, like that product owner role, once you start working with designers and developers and doing functional specs, you are sucked into the rabbit hole. There's no getting out of the building.
Yeah, right. Getting out of the building, right? Back to all the things you said the product manager has to know about, right? The why, the whole why are we doing this? Then how do those two stay in sync, or do they? Is that a problem companies face?
Well, companies definitely face a problem because of the confusion over the role. And to me, it's like a relay race, right? So product managers are going to do what they do. And then for some period of time, both the product manager and the product owner have to hold that baton together until such point that the product owner takes that baton and runs with it to the next phase of your design and development cycle. So both the product manager and the product owner need to know the whole picture. It's a matter of divide and conquer, right? So the product owner is going to be more or less the surrogate user, and the product manager is going to be the surrogate director, VP, senior executive, understanding what's driving customers from the top down. The product owner is going to pick it up and say, okay, now I'm going to understand how we make these people better at doing these things to meet these business goals that are important to the customer higher up the food chain.
Yeah, it sounds to me that when that handoff happens, when that baton, they both have their hands on it, is a critical time. A lot of communication.
It's a very critical time. Yes, it's a very critical time. And what I will say, and a lot of product managers might not like to hear this, there are too many product managers who are still too interested in tinkering with the product instead of tinkering with the market.
Yeah.
Right. So product managers, your job is to understand the market and let the product owner be more of the product expert than you are. And there are a lot of product managers who are just not comfortable doing that. They still want to be involved in the details of the product design and all that.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit of a legacy of where they came from, right? Maybe they were developers at one point in time, or they're into the product, right?
They are, and that's their comfort zone, right? And speaking of all these technical people coming into product management roles, their comfort zone is how the product works. And a product manager, you got to flip that switch, and your comfort zone has to be the who, what, and why far more than the how. Yeah.
It's the same with the pre-sales engineers, the people who demonstrate the product, right? We love to talk about our product, right? You've helped us, Sopheon, in that exact area. Stop talking about what it is and focus on the problem and the customer and what they need and the why, really.
Yeah, I mean, the magic of sales is, if people are going to spend money, they want to talk about them. They don't want to talk about you. So if you're selling, make the conversation all about them, and they'll sell themselves. They'll buy.
It sounds easy. Maybe it's not so easy to do.
Well, no, it's just it's hard to. We are encumbered by our product knowledge, and I've been there, and I know how hard this is.
Yeah. Oh, I just got to show you this other feature. You just need to see this, right?
I know.
So we talked about the kind of that product manager, product owner dynamic, but then you have the engineering group, right? So now you have the product owner talking to engineering either through stories or meetings, or hopefully more than just stories and hand it over the transom. But again, now there's another loss or point where you could lose more information. It's like the telephone game, right?
Mm-hmm. And to me, as the content gets built from product manager to product owner, and then you start going into design and engineering, as that content gets built and evolves and grows, the whole package, when things start going into design and engineering, they need the whole story, right? So at a product manager phase, it's who, what, and why. As it goes to the product owner role, you start adding more of the how in. As I go to engineering, then I need all of that cumulative who, what, why, and how before I start doing the technical how.
Yeah.
And I hear this from engineering leads all the time. It's like we're getting asked to build products and we don't have a value target clearly drawn for us. In other words, I don't know what customers are trying to do and the outcomes they want, and you're asking me to build something and I don't have a perspective. And I hear a lot of people criticize engineers, and in an engineer's defense, it's like if we don't give them proper context on why they're building stuff and what customers expect to get from it, we can't expect them to do a great job on it.
Yeah, I'm hearing the exact same thing. I hear over and over again that engineers just don't have that additional perspective, and they want it.
They definitely want
I've
it.
yet to find an engineer that didn't want it, right? But it doesn't come their way so often, and they just don't know. It is a challenge out there. Well, we've talked about a number of different things, John. Is there like one key learning or piece of advice you'd give to someone around innovation, or is it kind of all of the above?
Well, there's a lot, but I think it goes back to, to that most fundamental aspect of innovation is a lot of people can come up with a lot of ideas, but they're out of context, or the context for those ideas is very limited. So, the whole point behind this, which is, innovation is a result, not a process. And, it's probably the where the ideas come from is the result, not a process, or you could build it into the process like we talked about earlier. But to me, the most fundamental part of innovation and product management, like I said, these two things, it's hard for me to separate them. The most fundamental part is you have got to know your customers and get to know them without the bias of your products or what you do. You just have to see them the way they see themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my one piece of advice. And it doesn't matter whether you're in product management, design, engineering, marketing, or sales. The more you can see customers the same way they see themselves, the easier your job gets.
Okay. So forget about my company, forget about my product. Let me just go out there and almost like I'm a graduate student, right? Let me just see you with fresh eyes.
It is, and that's so, it's forget about me for a minute, understand the customer through the unbiased lens. Let's see them the way they see themselves now. With that context, now let's think about what we do and where we're relevant.
Yeah. Well, John, you've seen a lot of companies, you work with a lot of them. Some have made the transformation, some haven't, some have probably gone in and fall back. You don't have to name names if you don't want to, feel free to, but is there one success story that you either personally experienced or some company you worked with, you were helping them transform experience? Is there one example that you would say, boy, I'd like to, that's a good example you'd share with us?
So, yeah, there are, I would say I've worked with, a handful of very successful companies, and that whole customer mindset was built into the culture from the get-go, right? So some of the smaller ones, who were on their way up, and then some who have grown up to be several hundred million or above $1 billion in revenue, they, common denominator, which was everybody has to understand our customers to figure out how your job is relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even if you're the person doing contracts in the legal department, you have to understand our customers to understand how to make this contract legal process easier for them in the whole process. So, to me, that's where the success stories come from. And just to tell you how this plays out, and again, in all cases, it comes back to that measurable value. And so one of the clients I work with, they had point of sale software for automated car washes. And so I worked with these folks for a number of years. This is, just probably the most fun one. That's why I always talk about it, because I'm a car guy. But I first interacted with these folks when they were literally, I don't even think they were doing $1 million in revenue. And, fast forward, 10 years, they were doing $100 million in revenue. And it was organic.
Yeah, wow.
And it was one of those things where they were so focused on the customer, it got to the point where their sales team would walk in, and if you were an owner of one or multiple car washes, they'd say, the value story was this: Paul, for every $1 you give me, you're going to get $1.40 back, and I can prove it.
Wow.
And they had the statistics from their customers who were washing 40% more cars than the industry average if they were using this company's solution.
Yeah.
So when they said, Paul, the price is $100,000 and you're going to get 140 back, and you tried the discount thing, I was like, no, they did not discount their software. That was the one thing that stood out to me. This company did not discount their software. There were no discounts unless, if you were going to buy software for 12 car washes, yes, there was a tiered pricing, but there was no fourth quarter, end of the quarter discounting. It was, you pay the price, and their support their annual renewal fees were pricey, highest in the market, 99% customer retention rate. So customers paid. You deliver that kind of value, customers pay.
Yeah, and you can prove it. Yeah,
and you can prove it.
What I liked about the approach you just said is you didn't come in and tell me, Paul, this is what I do. This is my product. You just said, this is it. I'm going to, for every dollar you put it, $1.40 back. Boom. Want to talk or not? Right? It's just went right to value.
Well, and, the company, you talk about the culture and the brand merging, this is why I like this example best, because the culture of the company and their brand, everything in it, they expressed it different ways from a marketing standpoint, but inside the company, it's like the reason we come to work every day is to help our customers wash more cars and help our customers sell more services per car that they wash, right? So instead of just the car wash, you're going to get the wax and the tire shine and all the other accoutrements. So their whole mantra inside was everything we do when we come to work every day is help our customers wash more cars and get more money per sale by adding on more services. And it just drove the culture. And you could just, like I said, they went from 1 million to somewhere close to 100 million in probably 10 or 12 years.
Where did that culture come from? Was it top down, bottom up? I mean, and in general, if a company wanted, is it, well, we don't have that culture, we don't have a chance. Can that culture be built? Tell me more about that.
The culture started with the founders of the company. It was two brothers who founded the company. And so that's where the culture started. Can companies make that transformation? They certainly can. It just depends on what the legacy of the company is in terms of how much time or how difficult that transformation is going to be. And that transformation is like everyone knows they have to do something. Oh, yeah, we should talk to customers more, but then operationalizing how they do it is where it becomes difficult.
Yeah. But that's a lot of the work you're doing with companies is really to help them learn to do that and figure out how to do that and be better at it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole thing, what we want to do is make it easier for companies to understand their customers as well as they understand themselves, right? That's our whole thing, is make it easier for our clients to understand their customers as well as their customers see themselves, which is going to make product management, marketing, and sales a whole lot easier.
Yeah. This has been a great discussion, John. I really enjoy it. Where do you see things going, let's say, in 5 years from now? Is it more the same? Do you see things shifting, changing?
I definitely see things shifting and changing, and you can always follow the money trail. So here's what I think is going to drive companies in the B2B space to become more customer focused, and the money people are finally pushing the right buttons in my mind. So what I'm seeing is, especially in software where it's all, subscription based and you want to retain customers year after year with subscriptions. So the investment community is starting to value companies. In other words, your valuation from your investors, they're starting to put a lot more weight on customer retention, like how much customer churn do you have, because that's their measure of how valuable you are to your customers. If your customer churn is high, that's like, well, whatever you're doing isn't that valuable. You might be able to sell a lot and there's more coming in the top of the funnel than falling out the bottom, but that's still not a good mix, right? Because long-term customer value is finally where they're putting the emphasis instead of short-term sales and how much revenue can we crank out. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that financial philosophy there is going to drive companies to start focusing more on measurable customer outcomes, because that's how they're going to get money.
Yeah.
And we're all coin operated,
Yeah, right. Well, and I'm thinking about now product companies who are now find themselves, they think they found themselves suddenly in the software business. I tell them, no, you found yourself in the user experience business, but that's a whole other topic. But there are a lot of companies that now have software as a major part of a product that heretofore they did not have, right? I think everything you're talking about is even, you might say, well, that's for a software company. No, that's for any company that has software as part of their product offering, right?
It is. In fact, there are so many companies whose legacy business was hardware, and they have had to become software companies. With the hardware commoditized fast anyway. But with the advent of all these tablets and mobile devices and all this, it's like your $40,000 device. People are going, I'll just buy 10 $400 devices in the same period of time and still be a whole lot better off.
Yeah. So it really has. it's really affecting all industries in lots of ways. And I've talked to people in industries. They say, well, we're not seeing that yet. And I'm like, well, you will. If it's not hit your industry yet, it will.
Well, retailers and restaurants have had to become software companies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Look at what's happened over the last year and a half, and if the retailers and the restaurants and hospitality industries that have had their technical infrastructure in place before all of the COVID stuff have fared much better.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You can actually see that. I went to get coffee this morning at a place, I won't say what it is, but they didn't have a machine. I couldn't use my Apple Pay to pay for the coffee. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me?
I know. Let's do it the old-fashioned way. Yeah. Here's a credit card, right? The old-fashioned way used to be cash. Now the old-fashioned way is a physical credit card.
Correct. Yeah. So it keeps changing. Well, John, I really appreciated this. This was a great conversation. You're working on a lot of great stuff. I personally want to see you be very successful, because if you're successful at helping companies be better at product management, product marketing, and product demos, then I know my company will be more successful, because everybody will be. So.
No, thank you. It's been great talking with you here. I'm very passionate about this, and hopefully that comes through in our discussion today. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing what I do, and customers like yourselves are what make this fun and get me out of bed every day.
If people want to follow you, John, how do they contact you? How do they follow you?
LinkedIn and Twitter are the best way for them to find me, or they can go to Perficience.com and join our mailing list that way. So there's plenty of ways for people to find us out there.
Great. And we'll have links in the show notes for all of that. So people listening, please check those show notes, and you can get in touch with John and keep track on what he's doing. John, I wish you all the best today and in the future. And it's been wonderful. And thanks a lot.
Right back at you. Thank you. A pleasure to be here today.
And to all of you listening, thank you. We do this for you, and we really appreciate you attending our sessions. And if you ever want us to investigate a topic or try to find a speaker, just drop us a line at talks@sophian.com, and you'll hear that again in the outtake for the show. And until next time, have a great week, everybody. Bye for now.
Thanks for joining us this week for Innovation Talks with Paul Heller. For additional information on today's topic, check out Sopheon.com, Sopheon.com, where you will find plenty of innovation-centric content and corporate best practices. If you'd like to discuss anything with Paul or would like to get in touch with the show, email us at talks@Sopheon.com.